There's only one thing worse than being wrong, and that's admitting it. But on Zelos, the watch community's equivalent of Taylor Swift given the sycophantic, chronically online fanbase, I was wrong. Sort of. Okay, this is the Zelos Spearfish GMT. Just as I do with ex-girlfriends, Zelos refer to their watches using different types of fish. In fact, it was my experience with the swordfish that led to me saying this.
But I won't be buying another Zelos for now.
Did you catch that?
I won't be buying another Zelos for now.
Yeah, I said I wouldn't buy another Zelos, but obviously I did. But this is on another level altogether, a better level, an elite level. So do all of these little slugs actually have a point? Maybe this guy about my sound quality.
But I won't be buying another Zelos for now.
So it brings me absolutely no pleasure to say, well, maybe. They're still slugs. Before we get into why those Swifty slugs might have had a point, let's get through the specs. This is the Zelos Spearfish GMT Frost colourway, and it's 40mm in diameter, it's 47mm from lug to lug, and it's 13mm thick. There's 20mm between the lugs, 200 meters of water resistance, and it's powered by the Sellita SW330-2, which is a Caller GMT movement with a power reserve of around 56 hours. The retail on these is $999, which is roughly 780 quid. However, you can no longer buy this on the Zelos website or the European retailers they use, as it's sold out or discontinued or possibly both. Some of you slugs might want to put that in the cons column, and it is a real con because it's got a lot going for it. First, the dial. If you didn't like looking at my pale, scaly skin, then you're going to hate this. This icy white dial has a texture similar to tree bark. Contrast that with the gunmetal applied indices and handset, except the GMT hand, which we'll discuss later, and you've got one hell of a legible watch, possibly even more so in the dark. There's BGW9 on the GMT hand and C3 Superluminova everywhere else. The sapphire bezel insert has 24-hour numerals, and it's a bi-directional 48-click bezel. The action is absolutely superb. It all aligns, and as you saw before, it's fully lumed. Unlike the previous couple of Zelos models that I had that had some QC issues, this feels really well put together. Admittedly, those ones I had a good few years ago now. Maybe they've stepped up the QC because this feels extremely good in the hand. Good in the hand. Like, what does that actually mean? Everyone always says it, what does it mean? Well, does it feel good in the hand isn't just something I ask your mum, but it's also a tactility test of sorts for watches, at least for me. The tolerances, for example, on this bracelet. There's some flexibility that makes it comfortable on the wrist, but it's also taut enough to know that it's not going to be slack or loose under pressure. As you'd expect, because it's held together with screw pins that make it really easy to size, and, well, speaking of that, you will get a perfect fit on this watch, because this is categorically the best on-the-fly clasp I've ever used, and I've used like 4. No, I've probably tried a few more than that by now, but not even Rolex's glide lock system had me Gary Neville groaning like this one did. There's not as much adjustability as a Rolex, but it's so easy to use. You literally just apply a little bit of pressure to engage the wee spring, voila. The bracelet looks good too, because these flat link bracelets, they look good on just about any watch I see them on. Speedmaster, good. Halios, good. Tudor Black Bay 58, pretty f***ing good. The screw down crown is easy to grip and operate, and there really is something reassuringly industrial about the knurling on both it and the bezel. Turn the watch over and we can see the Sellita SW330-2 working away. Zelos have put a skeletonized custom rotor on this, which is nice, and I like it, but this is kind of something that I'd change. I can already hear the Zelos fanboys and girls sharpening their pitchforks, but go and touch grass and come back in a minute. All I was going to say was that I'd prefer this rotor to be the same gold as the balance wheel, rather than this copper tone. And just as the Reddit people are out of the room, I'll say this now too. While I think this design is really well executed, the proportions are generally pretty perfect for me, the weight distribution and comfort of the watch are spot on, it is a tad thick. Okay, on paper, not really, because it's 13mm, which, you know, it's fine, especially given this is a GMT movement and has 200 meters of water resistance, but it sort of looks thicker than it is because of how high the bezel sits above the bracelet and because of how flat it is. It doesn't slope downwards like some bezels do towards the lugs. I get that you probably can't make a convex sapphire bezel insert, but that would be something I'd change as well. And maybe I'd also do something to this GMT hand. I don't know what, honestly, but something to make it a little bit more legible. The light blue on the white dial does mean it's a little tricky to pick out in the day. In the dark, obviously, as you see, that is no problem at all. But other than those minor gripes, I actually don't think I'd change anything about this watch, except the price. I'd literally always make the price of everything less, obviously I would, so that I could afford it all. My previous experience with Zelos were with watches that cost around 250 quid. Now this is nearly 4 times that price. And that does make me wonder if Zelos's premium models are like a lot better than their entry ones. You know, like a lot better, conspicuously better. That might sound like a crass assumption, like yeah, a £250 watch isn't as good as a £1,000 watch, but like this is from the same brand. Should there be that discrepancy? You buy a Tudor for £1,500 or you buy a Tudor for £2,500, you're still going to get the same level of high quality finishing. Okay, the movement might not be as well regulated and it might be a third party movement. It also might not be as complicated or have the same levels of like water resistance, but it'll still be a Tudor. Handling this Zelos Spearfish compared to the Zelos Swordfish that I previously had, they feel like they've been made by entirely different brands. Maybe they've made that big a step up in the last few years. I honestly hope so. One thing that has stayed the same is the 1-year warranty. Come on, even you fanboys that have just come back from your ice cream break, you have to admit that they should step that up going forward. So that's it. I really do like the Zelos Spearfish, I do. There's a couple of minor gripes, but I won't be making the same mistake twice. Would I ever buy a Zelos again? Yeah, I would. Let me know what you think of Zelos in the comments below, and if you're already a mega fan of the brand, you'll probably just have to type with your left hand, but don't worry, I will eventually read and respond to all of them. And if you want to see how far this channel's come on in terms of QC over the last few years, well, click this video, and if you want another micro brand review, click this one. Thanks so much for watching, I'll see you next time.